From scars to stars, Dylan and Shen Yue show fans their love has grown stronger. The love story of Dylan Wang and Shen Yue has never been an easy one. It has been forged in fire, carved out of storms, and defined by scars that most couples would never dare to endure. From the explosive confrontation with Dylan's mother, to Shen Yue's painful rejection by her family, to the heated clash between Dylan and Shen Yue's brother, their path has been anything but simple. Yet, through all the chaos, heartbreak, and shattered trust, something remarkable has happened. Their love has transformed from scars into stars. This is not just a reunion. This is a rebirth. And what Dylan and Shen Yue showed the world in recent days left fans sobbing, gasping, and believing in love all over again. The moment happened when no one expected it. Days after rumors of Dylan's broken engagement and Shen Yue walking away from him had been plastered across the internet, fans spotted the two at a quiet countryside retreat outside Beijing. At first, it looked like a coincidence, but eyewitnesses quickly confirmed it wasn't. Dylan and Shen Yue were there together. They weren't hiding. They weren't running. They weren't broken. They were healing. A fan described the scene. They were walking side by side near the lake. Shen Yue was laughing, and Dylan was looking at her like she was the only person on earth. It didn't look forced, it didn't look staged. It looked real, like love. The internet exploded. From Scars to Stars began trending within hours. But what really made fans lose their breath were the photos that leaked shortly after. One photo showed Shen Yue resting her head against Dylan's shoulder as the two sat under a tree, watching the sunset. His arm was protectively wrapped around her, as if to shield her from every storm she had faced in his world. Another showed Dylan brushing away tears from Shen Yue's face, before kissing her forehead so gently that fans swore they could feel the sincerity through the screen. But the most unforgettable picture, the one that shook the fandom to its core, was Dylan holding Shen Yue's hand, lifting it to the sky, as if declaring to the universe, "This is my love, my star, my everything." The scars of their past weren't erased in that moment, but they were acknowledged. And that made it even more beautiful. Insiders revealed that Dylan and Shen Yue spent hours talking during their countryside retreat. No yelling. No bitterness. Just truth. One source said. They spoke about the pain. They admitted the scars. Dylan apologized for not protecting Shen Yue enough from his mother's harsh words. Shen Yue confessed how broken she felt when her family rejected Dylan. They cried together, but those tears weren't of defeat. They were of release. They let go of the poison. They chose to love again. It was as if every wound they carried became a constellation. Every scar turned into a star. Fans didn't just see a couple, they saw a story. A story of resilience. A story of how love, when real, refuses to die. The reunion went beyond whispered promises and gentle touches. Days later, Dylan and Shen Yue shocked everyone again when they attended a small charity gala together. This wasn't just public, it was bold. They walked in hand, both glowing, both unapologetic. When photographers shouted Dylan's name, he turned with Shen Yue's hand still locked in his. And when they shouted Shen Yue's name, Dylan leaned in close and whispered something in her ear that made her laugh, an unguarded, unbroken laugh that melted hearts everywhere. The scars had not disappeared. But they had become proof of survival. The most heart-stopping moment of the evening came when Dylan took the microphone unexpectedly. With Shen Yue seated just a few feet away, he looked into the crowd and said, "Love is not about perfection. Love is about strength. Shen Yue and I have been through storms most people will never understand. But those storms did not destroy us. They shaped us. And today, we choose to stand together not as broken people, but as survivors who turned our scars into stars." The room erupted in applause. Shen Yue's eyes filled with tears as Dylan's words washed over her. She didn't hesitate, she stood, walked straight to him, and hugged him tightly in front of everyone. It wasn't staged. It wasn't rehearsed. It was raw. And it was everything. For fans, this was more than a love story, it was a revolution. Social media became a flood of emotion. This isn't just Dylan and Shen Yue. This is proof that love can survive anything. They went from scars to stars. I'm crying. They deserve the world. Protect this couple at all costs. Their love is too beautiful. But what truly sealed the night was a video clip from later that evening. In it, Dylan and Shen Yue are outside, standing under the stars. Shen Yue looks up, pointing at the sky. Dylan follows her gaze, then gently places his hand over hers. The two whisper something softly, before sharing a kiss so tender, so filled with history and hope, that fans swore it felt like watching the ending scene of the most perfect romance drama. Their story had been riddled with pain. But now, every scar had become a reminder of what they had survived. And every star became a promise of what they would become. Dylan and Shen Yue are not the same couple they were before. They are stronger. They are deeper. They are proof that love, when real, does not fade in the face of rejection, anger, or even betrayal. It only grows. It turns scars into stars. And the world will never forget the night Dylan Wang and Shen Yue reminded everyone that true love is not about being unbroken, it's about choosing to shine, even after the darkness. Dylan and Shen Yue's countryside healing. The countryside retreat wasn't a coincidence. It was Dylan's idea, a desperate attempt to step away from flashing cameras, disapproving parents, and suffocating expectations. He chose the place carefully, a lakeside villa hidden among endless fields, where the air smelled like freedom and the only sound was the whisper of the wind brushing through the trees. When Shen Yue arrived, she wasn't sure she wanted to be there. Her heart was heavy with old wounds, her mind replaying every cruel word Dylan's mother had thrown at her, every moment of rejection from her own family. But when she saw Dylan waiting at the gate, standing in simple clothes with nervous eyes that betrayed both fear and hope, her breath caught. It wasn't the Dylan Wang the world knew, the confident star, the untouchable idol. It was Dylan, the boy who once held her hand under a tree, the boy who promised her forever before the storms came. "Thank you for coming," he whispered, his voice raw. Shen Yue hesitated, then nodded. "I don't know why I'm here." "Because," Dylan said, stepping closer, "we still have pieces of us worth saving." Inside the villa, time seemed to slow. They didn't talk at first. They just sat across from each other, the silence thick but not unbearable. A pot of tea steamed between them, untouched, as if neither dared to break the fragile atmosphere. Finally, Dylan spoke. His voice cracked, carrying the weight of months of pain. "I should have protected you. When my mother said those things, I should have walked out with you. Instead, I froze. And I watched you get hurt. I hate myself for that." Shen Yue looked down at her hands, fingers trembling. "Do you know what it felt like to hear her say I'd never be enough? To hear her laugh at the thought of me in your world? It broke me, Dylan. It broke me in ways I can't even explain." Dylan leaned forward, his eyes glistening. "Then let me help you heal. Let me take every scar she gave you and turn it into something beautiful." Shen Yue met his gaze for the first time, and the sight of his tears shook her. Dylan Wang, untouchable to the world, adored by millions, was crying for her. Crying because of her. Crying with her. And in that moment, something inside her cracked, not in pain, but in release. They went outside, drawn to the lake that glimmered like glass under the setting sun. The world was painted in orange and gold, the sky stretching endlessly above them. Shen Yue hugged herself, shivering though the evening wasn't cold. Dylan stepped behind her, hesitant at first, then wrapped his arms around her waist. She stiffened, but he didn't let go. "I don't care if the whole world stands against us," he murmured against her hair. "I'd rather fight everyone than lose you again." Shen Yue closed her eyes, leaning back against him, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. "Do you mean that? Or is it just another promise that will break when things get hard?" Dylan gently turned her around, his hands cupping her face. His thumbs brushed away her tears, and for the first time in months, Shen Yue saw something in his eyes that was undeniable, truth. "I've broken before," Dylan whispered. "But not again. Not with you. I'll fight for us this time, you. Even if it costs me everything." The next few hours became a blur of raw honesty. They walked by the water, spoke about their fears, their regrets, their fragile hopes. Shen Yue admitted how lost she felt when she left him. Dylan confessed the nights he stayed awake, replaying their last argument over and over, wishing he could go back. When words failed, silence carried them. They sat under an old oak tree, Shen Yue resting her head on Dylan's shoulder, his fingers tracing idle patterns on her hand. For the first time in forever, the world didn't feel like a battlefield. At one point, Shen Yue whispered, almost to herself, "We're both covered in scars." Dylan smiled faintly, lifting her hand to the sky. The first stars had begun to appear, tiny sparks piercing through the darkening sky. "Then let's turn them into stars," he said. She looked at him, puzzled. "Scars show where we've been," Dylan continued softly. "But stars show where we're going. If we carry the scars together, they won't weigh us down. They'll light the way." Tears filled Shen Yu's eyes again, but this time they weren't of pain. They were of something fragile, something rare. Hope. As the night grew darker, the lake reflected the stars above, a perfect mirror of the sky. Dylan and Shen Yue sat side by side, their hands intertwined. There was no audience, no cameras, no judgmental voices, just two people rediscovering the love that had once been lost. At one point, Dylan whispered, "I'm scared." Shen Yue frowned. "Of what?" "Of losing this again. Of losing you again. I don't think I'd survive it." Shen Yue turned to him, her hand brushing his cheek. "Then don't let me go." The simplicity of her words carried the weight of everything they had endured. Dylan leaned in, pressing his forehead against hers, both of them trembling not from fear, but from the overwhelming truth that they had found their way back. And when their lips finally met, it wasn't the fiery kiss of passion. It was gentle, healing. A kiss that spoke of forgiveness, of promises kept, of scars transformed into stars.